Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Welcome to the Hour of Politics. Ansony Sieh is your guy, your host. The network is about educating, it's about elevating, and it's about promoting all things Liberia. The politics of Liberia is something that I happen to be somebody who love this thing, if I can pull it that way. Welcome. Share the show. That is the only favor I ask. And I'm very sure that you will be gracious enough to share the show. Today's topic is one that you will like, because 2023 is that year, that much anticipated year. So welcome. And welcome to the show. The topic for today's discussion on the Hour of Politics: the opposition bloc and the ruling CDC. Who has the advantage to 2023? That is the topic for today's discussion. So, folks, let me give you the overview of the topic. Elections are coming for 2023. We have the general and presidential election. There will be legislative and presidential, folks. So, talking about that, who has the advantage? Who you think, as we speak, where we are right now, who has the advantage? Is it the opposition bloc? When we say opposition bloc, we are talking about the entire opposition. That includes all the parties. And if there are any collaborations, that also includes all the collaborations. So if you put the opposition bloc in a segment, does that opposition bloc has the advantage going into the election? Or will you say the ruling CDC has the advantage going into 2023? And in order for us to know who has the advantage, we will look at all the factors and political variables. We will analyze them. And then we will be able to piece together where Party X or the opposition and the ruling CDC might be having that edge or that competitive advantage. And so welcome. And again, do not hesitate to share the show. If you are also watching us on YouTube, we also want you to hit that share button. So to do all this, we will be looking at two segments in this particular presentation. Segment number one, the CDC strength versus the opposition strength. And we'll break strength down into so many segments. And also, the other segment will be conflict in the CDC versus conflict in the opposition. If we look at the conflict that we all know in these two political sides, which side's conflict has a potential to derail their chances leading or going into 2023? Will it be the CDC conflict that has the propensity to derail the CDC, or will it be the opposition's conflict that will have so much impact on its chances going into 2023? So, folks, we will get started. And usually we do not start until we introduce the network. So after this, we will be going into the discussion.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Dennis Jah, thank you. Ansony, Sieh, the hour of politics. The topic for today, the opposition bloc and the ruling CDC, who has the advantage going into 2023. And folks, like I said earlier, or maybe I should say this to you, this is the hour of politics. I'm expecting guest discussant Steve Bolay to be joining me, but we will get started here quickly. So let's start with the first segment, the strength of the CDC versus the strength of the opposition bloc. Okay, so we cannot discuss the strength of each side without looking at key factors. And these are the factors we will look at to see who has that competitive advantage. So let's look at the money factor. In elections, you need money, and you need money. You need money because you have to travel. You need money because you have to get campaign materials, t-shirts, placards. You need money because you're going to sell your message, and you can't sell the message without using the media. You have to go to radio station, or of course you will be charged. You got to show up to multiple platforms. You have to put information in the newspaper. All of this will cost money, and you will have your campaign team that will more like abandon every other thing that they do for their survivability to focus and put in their time in your campaign. Those people, while they abandon their responsibility and their daily hustles, did need to have something to survive, especially for their family. So those people must be compensated in most cases. I don't know about Liberia, but I know they spend money too. And people are paid to run these campaigns. That is the history, right? So you need money and you need money. So talking about the money factor, let us look at these two political sides. We have the ruling CDC and we have the opposition bloc. Let's start with the CDC. Now, we want to know whether money is a problem for the CDC going into this campaign. My answer is no. The CDC has no money problem going into the campaign. So if the CDC does not have money problem, how can we know that they actually don't have a money problem? Do they have money? Where is the money coming from? Well, you know, the CDC is running the government. The CDC is in charge of our national coffers. The CDC drafts the budget. The CDC is the one that decides what budgetary allotment goes to Minister X, Minister Y, and Minister Z. And in most cases, most of the consequential ministers are mostly citizens, or if not, they are supporting the CDC. And the fact that elections are next year, right? Or the presidential election is next year. And the CDC announced to us that the budget has grown up to $780 million for the first time in the nation's history. And we've seen the allotments that's been set aside for these ministries and agencies, the presidents. You know, it's obvious how much money the CDC has, you know, or intelligently, for lack of better word, or somebody would say, or criminally, or allotted to the ministries and agencies, money, in most cases, they're not going to use to improve the material condition of the people in the first place. So the fact that they want to maintain power at all costs, because power is this thing that is so sweet, the CDC has the money. For example, we have personal budget jumped from $412,000 to $5.9 million. So this is President we are who is having an excess of $5 million just sitting there. That is a lot of money. I don't want to talk about what has been allotted, because all of these ministries and agencies, their budgets have increased out about 100%, out about 50%, out about 75%. Why did the CDC do that? It is not about improving the material condition of the people. It is about having significant cash on hands so that they will be able to go into this race and battle using everything they have to their disposal. So financially speaking, in terms of the money, the CDC is well positioned. The CDCs have the sources of money. The CDC is controlling the national coffers. So money should not be the CDC problem. You are doubting me. Okay, let me give you some juice. Thomas Fowler just ran on the CDC's ticket. What did you see? Thomas Fowler was seen in the streets of Monrovia, physically, in the presence of thousands of young people that gather. He was dishing out money physically. $100, $100, $100, $200. He became a political ATM. That was the CDC that has set aside money because it needed the Monserrado County senatorial seat. So the CDC could do that for Thomas Fowler, who is not the political gore of CDC. Wow. Yes, CDC did that. CDC wanted to see the undefeated. CDC wanted to have shown that it is still popular in Monserrado County. CDC did not want to lose that competitive edge in terms of political standing in Monserrado County. It wanted to maintain Monserrado County as a stronghold with a Thomas Fowler. So now we are talking about elections in which President will be the CDC candidate. And you think they will allow their political god, their political king, to go down? Well, if one thing that will make that happen, the CDC is saying that will not be money, because if they could not allow Thomas Fowler to go down with deficiency when it comes to financial or money, why would they not do it for their political goals? So I will tell you, the CDC has the money. Money is not their problem. So when it comes to funding, when we are talking about the money factor, the CDC is well positioned. Financially speaking, the CDC has the advantage. So let us talk about that further. Let's talk about the opposition. The opposition bloc is divided. Where or who in the opposition bloc, has some money? Let's start with, what's his name? Mr. Tiawon Gonglo. Mr. Tiawon Gonglo has no money. It's a known fact. He's a decent, honest man from what we know, given his public record. He is running. What party is he from? He's from the Liberian People Party, one of Liberia's older political party that is in political coma and is yet to resurrect. So this is a party that is yet to resurrect and be part of the political narrative, something that is easier in Liberian political sphere or space. In the Liberian political space, if you want to be part of the narrative, you just have to find some smart young people, coin some talking point, engage the media, and be everywhere possible to make the case, to come with a plan, to articulate the issues politically, to be able to communicate the pains and sufferings of the Liberian people. and tailor your message in the people's favor and be able to point out the flaws and the ills in the society and how the ruling elite is suffering the poor people. But this political party called the LPP cannot even do that, least to talk about money. So they have a money problem. The candidate, Mr. Tiawon Gonglo, well, he might be able to raise some money, but until that happens, as we speak right now, the LPP and Mr. Tiawon Gonglo do have a money problem. So they have no advantage in any shape, politically speaking, and in any form when it comes to the issue of money. So that would do it for the LPP and Mr. Tiawon Gonglo, who should be their candidate. There's a guy called Cassell. He perambulates in political corridor as a guy with money. Now, his sources of money are yet to be known. But he, like Thomas Fowler, works like a political ATM. People are cashing out on him. Does it mean he has no problem when it comes to money? That answer, I'm yet to find it. Because some people might tease you with few dollars to project that they have money. Liberia is a poor country. Once somebody is able to spend 5,000 here and there, we say, oh, that person has money. We are talking about a presidential campaign here that is so expensive. And I will tell you, this campaign that is coming will be the most expensive political campaign in the history of Liberia. Because the CDC is prepared to spend every dollar it can possibly spend to maintain power. So I'm not sure how financially solid is Cassell to be able to run a national race where all the counties will be in play, where he must technically be able to spend some money in nearly every county, even if not in most of the counties, especially the vote-rich counties, some people will say, in Liberia. So talking about the reach that he has to go, financially speaking, in terms of spending money, is he strong enough? I don't know. I would think not. So let us come to Mr. Alexander Bernard Cummings, who is another political actor here. We are told he's rich. He earned his money in corporate America. He has been spending money. He has been spending money. He has been spending money, and we know it to be a fact. Does it mean that Mr. Cummings is well positioned? Does it mean that the ANC is well positioned to be able to finance its way into this election? Like I said, you need cars, you need people. You need money for t-shirts. T-shirts has become big thing in Liberia. You need money for placards. You need money to engage the media. Money for jingle and all manner of things, papers. You need money. Does Cummings have the money? The folks in the ANC are saying, well, we have some money. Money is not our problem. They will tell you uprightly. And more to Mr. Cummings' deep pocket, we are told, the ANC has a record of raising some money, as far as we know, which is a fact. The ANC is one political party now that has been able to raise some money compared to other political institutions, according to popular record. So does it mean the ANC does not have any trouble when it comes to money? Does it also mean that Mr. Cummings is well positioned financially speaking? Well, I guess many people will say yes, and it's not mean to say no. So let us make progress. So the ANC might not have a money problem. But do they have sufficient money compared to the ruling class, the CDC? That is the question I'm asking. And I would think, since this ANC will be depending heavily on Mr. Cummings' pockets, Mr. Cummings will have a pause here. He went into this thing before and he didn't succeed. He spent a lot of money. Is he prepared to spend so much money again when things are looking a little bit bleak right now, politically speaking, for him? So if the sense in him and the ANC is that, well, our chances are narrowing, will he go and spend as much money as will be needed to be able to match the CDC, that would be a huge risk. But again, that is the money he can decide to so spend it, maybe on what? Another unsuccessful run? Somebody may put it that way. So, folks, let us come to Mr. Bloc. Mr. Bloc comes from the Unity Party. Mr. Bloc, we are told, is an edited statement. We also know, we are told, Mr. Bloc has name recognition, something that is a political plus in any political campaign. But the folks in the Unity Party will hasten to tell you money is our problem. They might not use my words, but that is what it is. Mr. Bloc, we know, also has a financial deficiency so chronic that funding a national campaign for at least a year or 6 months will prove so difficult for him. As we speak, we heard of a tag team for Joseph Bloc. They are trying to put their pieces together. They are politically or dispirited, if I can pull it that way. And that is our friends of Bloc, they call it FOB. They are raising funds, and what we heard in their target is $1 million. $1 million is a drop in the bucket. Preparation for campaign alone will cost you a little over $1 million. Does Mr. Bloc have financiers to finance his campaign? Will people be willing to contribute to the Bloc's campaign? Now, people will be willing to contribute to the Bloc campaign when they see some semblance of breakthrough from Mr. Bloc. They might be, encouraged to do so. And more people will also be looking at, is Bloc putting a team together? Because the fact is, no one man can go into the race standing alone, tall, and trying to claim some political supremacy that don't win. People will be a little more assured that you will have a chance and will be tempted to spend their money when they see a formidable team, a coalition for that matter, that you bring people together, and these people as a group are very solid enough to engage the ruling CDC, and in the words of Mr. Bloc, to take president, we are down. Then, and only then, people will say, well, maybe we have to spend some money here. But as far as we know, no smart political financier will dish out huge sum of money to Mr. Bloc, given the way things are. The CDC, the CPP, something I would touch on, was more like the hope there, and that hope has been dashed away. And so, in my opinion, political financiers, campaign financiers might be looking at, no, this will be a risky move. I will not get a return on my dollar. And so that is a serious problem. So politically speaking, to conclude this piece, if anyone has an advantage when it comes to the money factor going into 2023, the CDC does have the advantage. And if there's anyone who has a little advantage, also financially speaking, will be Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings and the ANC. But whether or not they will be able to spend the money is a question that they will have to answer. Let us make progress, folks. So let's come to another factor. I call this one the narrative factor. Who will have an advantage with the narrative and why? I want to know. So what is narrative? Somebody may be asking, what is narrative? So let's talk about, before we talk about a narrative, let's talk about the numbers. The numbers factor. Who has more numbers than the other comparatively? The game of politics, this business of politics, is about numbers. You must have the numbers to win. You can have all the money in the world. If you don't have the numbers, you will not win. Your money will be spent in vain. We saw that with Vanny Sherman. He had the money. He didn't have the numbers. He spent his money in vain. He became a loser. We saw that with Alexander Benedict Cummings in 2017. He had the money. He never had the numbers. He spent his money, and he spent his money in vain. We saw that with Joseph Yamambwaka. He never had the numbers. He never had the money. Unfortunately, also, he went into the election because he did not have the winning numbers. He had himself caught up with the process. He worked in vain. He and his team campaign in vain. They will go to be humiliated. It is about numbers, folks. And I don't want to count a Uri. He's an insignificant political player, but he's a dangerous player. So let's talk about the numbers a little bit. Numbers-wise, the CDC has a base. The CDC base is with the CDC because the CDC has been demonized by the opposition. The opposition did not leave no room for the ruling class people, seditionists, to be able to come into their fold. They have closed the door. They have branded them as people who have betrayed the country. They insult them. They call them all manners of names. They closed the door. So for seditionists, they have nowhere to go. So they are compelled to stick with their party. They are compelled to stick to President Weah. So that base of the CDC is there. Though disappointed, though discouraged, though disenchanted, but they don't see a home away from home. And so they are home, and home they will stay till that kingdom come politically. So I'm saying to say the CDC has a formidable base that will either die a political death with the CDC, for they see no home away from home. So that is a number that you want to have, a number that is with you no matter what, despite disagreements, despite being disenchanted, despite being disenchanted, that will stay with you. You need that. That is a consequential number. Now, the CPP and the opposition has been so helpful indirectly to the CDC. And I will talk about that when I come to the conflict factor. So I'm saying to say, when it comes to the numbers, the CDC has a number that is going to stay with it. We are also saying, when it comes to the number, Mr. Bwaka did extremely well in the past election, but that well was not good enough. And so that's why he suffered a significant defeat and won just one county out of the 15 in the final round. He netted 400,000. Now, has Mr. Bwaka been able to move the needle? Because the number that he got in the last election was not enough. He fell short to make it to political promised land. And has Mr. Bwaka been working? Has the Unity Party been working? Has the Unity Party been reaching out to grow that number? To give it the political advantage or to give it the numerical advantage? No, no, and no. What we're seeing is that more people from popular record have left the Unity Party compared to those who have gone to the Unity Party. So it's obvious to say the Unity Party has not been able to grow its number. And while it has, I am sure a huge chunk of that number will stay with the Unity Party because Bwaka has a name recognition, but I will touch that, will stay with the Unity Party. But the Unity Party problem has been, it has not been able to grow the number. It has not been able to grow its numbers. And that is a serious problem. So when you look at the advantage, numerically speaking, the Unity Party is yet to grow its number. The CDC, on the other hand, I have seen like senators and representatives lawmakers changing from their previous party and going to the CDC. I have also seen some people who are even supported Unity Party and other parties coming to the CDC. And the reason is because of what the CPP has done. It has destroyed the trust and hope and aspirations of many people. They see more chaos and confusion in the opposition compared to the CDC, even though the CDC has its own problem. So in terms of numbers, whether or not the CDC has been able to grow its numbers, I'm not sure, but the fact that we've seen some movements from key political actors like senators, some opinion leaders in the community, going to the CDC, and the reason they are going there is because they see some semblance of stability, less noise on the part of the CDC, and besides, the CDC has a gravy in its hand, and some people just want piece of that gravy. For some people, that is the only reason they're in politics. So that is something that the CDC has. So I'm not clear whether the CDC has been able to grow its number, but there have been some players who have left their political camps and moved to the CDC. Now, whether or not that will translate into the movement of actual voters is yet to be seen. So in terms of numbers, CDC may have a little bit of an advantage. Mr. Bwaka may have a little bit of an advantage. But if you if you compare the two, who has a little more advantage in terms of the numbers, when we look at past election results and we look at the fact that Mr. Bwaka and the Unity Party now growing their numbers, except for CDC that have seen some movement in a direction, maybe the CDC is making a little bit of headway, and I'm not clear on that. But let us come to Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings. He led 112,000 votes in the previous election. We are told he came to the game 18 months to the election, and he will get more votes than when Tipota attempted multiple times. Like H-Bama Formula attempted, I don't know how many times. I would say 2 times. And many other players, like insignificant player like Ure, who cannot even get a 0.9%. All right. And so Cummings came and he got 112%. He was now known, and some people still see him as a stranger. I don't know why, but that is a fact, right? And that is something they have to deal with, and they have not been able to do a better job so far. I don't know why, when they don't have money problem. So, and I'll come to the narrative here. So the ANC, can we say that the ANC has been able to grow its numbers? Many people will be tempted to say no. And the reason people will be tempted to say no is, to say yes, sorry. Many people will be tempted to say yes for many reasons. One, this ANC has been able to recruit. The ANC will tell you is the fastest growing political party in Liberia. And they say that because many times we've seen other people from the ALP leaving and joining the ANC. Whether that is a significant migration of voters and political actors, that is yet to be tested, and that will be proven comes 2023. We've seen movement from the Unity Party, and these are just individuals. The Moriah Yakula out of the war. What's his name? This guy, the communication director, Momba K. Yobo, who supported Joseph Bwaka and he left. Menipaka Dumwe, who supported Joseph Bwaka and left, and they are all supporting Cummings. And many other players who have left the Unity Party. Some also left the CDC and came to Alexander Benedict Cummings. But most of the people we've seen are all political actors. These people are not the average voters who have the power in their hands to decide who becomes president. The ANC will tell you, well, we're recruiting people, but you are recruiting people, but when it's ANC is having an event, we don't see that number. We don't see people in huge numbers. So I question whether or not the ANC is actually growing its numbers. If they are relying on some political grievance seekers coming to them, some job seekers coming to them, and leaving their political institutions and coming out of because Mr. Cummings has money, or the thing that Mr. Cummings is a better guy, and they are coming. Are they coming with the voters? I'm not sure they are coming with the voters. They are going there for what they will benefit politically. Either it may be a job or maybe for financial gain, given that Cummings, we are told, has some money. And we know for a fact also that people that are working for him, like chief of office staff, communication director, and all these people, they are on salary. So why would the people not go there to seek political employment so that they can have a political income or maybe economic incomes, to put it right? So that is why we see. But the question is, does that translate into growth when it comes to numbers? And when I'm talking numbers, I'm talking about voters moving in Cummings' direction. I am not sure they have been able to move the voters in their direction. If that were so, we would tell from the political gatherings of the ANC, especially when their leader is moving in communities, when he's moving into counties and having events, we will see that. But I don't see that. In the main fact, I don't see that. I don't see that as a political growth. But again, I am a human being and I can be very wrong. We will know when the time comes during election day. The results will tell us, but that is your analysis right there. Let us make progress. Now let's come to the narrative factor. Let us come to the narrative factor. Let us come to the narrative factor. What is narrative? The narrative is what are people saying about a political party. What are they saying about a particular candidate? How do they see the candidate? How do they see the political party? Do they see the political party as a corrupt political party? Do they see that presidential candidate or that political leader as a corrupt person? That is the narrative. So let's look at the players again and the political parties again. Again, let's start with the CDC. How do the voters see the CDC and President Weah? Do they see him as somebody who is corrupt? Do they see the CDC as a corrupt political party that has let the Liberian people down? Do they see the CDC as a political institution or as a government that is delivering their goods for the ordinary people? Do they see the CDC as fulfilling its promises? Do they see the government as corrupt? Do they see the officials of government as corrupt? The answer is yes to all of the above. But with that yes be a reason for them to vote against the CDC in their numbers? That is yet to be seen. And so to drill on that, President Weah has been building mansions when he took over. That's a political madness. He has refused to declare his asset and make it known to the public to see what he has. He's hiding something. That will give many people pause. We have heard about one scandal here and there in the government, and the president in most of these scandals, he cannot act because of connection. So the narrative against the CDC is not pleasant, and it depends on who you talk to. But the fact is, it's not pleasant, it's ugly, it's dirty. And more so, the living condition of the Liberian people has completely deteriorated. The living standard in the life of the ordinary man is yet to see any improvement. No, nada, zip, zero. And that is the strongest narrative against the CDC. When the CDC came, it came with the promise of hope for change or change for hope. Are the Liberian people hopeless? Are the Liberian people hopeful today? No, they are completely hopeless. The prices of basic commodities have skyrocketed. Everything in Liberia is expensive. Life has become so difficult for people to live. And then on top of this serious narrative against the CDC, its officials are engaged into unwholesome governance practices, including the president, including all or most of the leaders based on reports that we hear. And the issue of perception is another narrative. What is the perception of the ordinary voter against the CDC and against President Weah? Again, it depends on who you talk to, but the fact is, whether that person is a sedition, they believe that President Weah is not delivering the goods. Some of them will tell you with their mouth say he's delivering the goods, but that's a lie. But when you talk to them in private, they are disappointed, they are discouraged, they are dispirited, they are disenchanted, and you can add your own words. So they know for a fact that this CDC government has not been able to live up to the promises it made to the Liberian people. So when you are talking about the narrative, the CDC does not have the advantage, the narrative of corruption, the narrative of the living standard in the country, the economic conditions in the country. Whether the CDC cares about the people, no, the CDC does not have that advantage. All is now well for the CDC when it comes to the political narrative. So when we are talking about the narrative, another thing we need to talk about is the political actors, the messengers, the people who will be talking for the CDC. So let's talk about that further into the political narrative. Political actors factor. We say messengers are less or more credible. So talking about that, the CDC campaign time will send our president we have to campaign. Will Liberians welcome him and see him as that we had saw in 2017? That is a question that one needs to answer. Will they dispatch Mamba Mondo to go and campaign? The guy who was caught on that audio tape saying all manner of things against President Weah? At one point, Mamba Mondo said that people in the CDC government were acquiring unexplained wealth overnight, and that the government needed to act. Mamba Mondo said that. In the leaked audio tape that we heard, Mamba Mondo is politically ostracized in the CDC. He does not have a voice. That is why he even cannot have a press conference. But he is the chairman of the party. He will be compelled to say something during the campaign. So Liberians will be listening and watching what Mamba Mondo will say during campaign time and measuring that against what he has said, either in private against the CDC or in public against the CDC that have become public record. Would that be a political manius? That this guy who said all these things against the CDC that constitute an exposure of what is happening in the dark in the CDC will not be praising or singing political hallelujah for the CDC? Will that be somebody the people want to listen to? And then at Carlos Gray, when he was not in government, he was protesting. He said he was advocating for the people. He said he wanted a war crime code. The CDC wanted a war crime code. Where is he today? What is he saying right now? Do the masses see Carlos Gray as that advocate anymore? And even Mamba Mondo, do they see him? Do the Liberian people see President Weah as that man who was, them? Do they see him, or do they see him as an elite right now? Will they dispatch somebody like, say, Samuel 12? There's report against him, talking about the $25 million. He was involved with the money. He will go deny, but he said a lot of things in the public space. Will they release him or unleash him or pour him out there to campaign? And will the Liberian people listen to him and trust him and make a decision based on what he's going to say? What will civil servants say about the government? Will they say, well, at least we're in the government is paying all? Or will they say, well, the government has not been regular with salaries and all that? People have been protesting, so no, we're not going to vote. These are the narrative against the political actors and the institution. That comes to Mr. Cummings. Mr. Cummings, when it comes to the narrative, how do people see him? I want to know whether What is his persona? Now let's talk about persona a little bit. Persona is the way people see you, the way they take you, your outlook. When the people look at Mr. Cummings, how do they see him? And that is tied into the connection factor. All right. So do people see Mr. Cummings as an elite? There is this narrative that is stuck against Mr. Cummings, and he has not been able to dispel that narrative. People see him as an elite. Where does he come from? He comes from the corporate world. He has money. He's having a hard time connecting to the ordinary people. That is a strong narrative against Mr. Cummings. And these are the reasons. This is one of the reasons why they say he's a stranger. He just coming, and he has been having a difficult time connecting with the ordinary people. Now, another narrative in the political space, people might want to be politically correct that they don't want to talk about. One person who will talk about it is the tribal factor. In politics, most people, when they are Crew, they will rather vote for a Crew person. That is a fact. If you are a Bassa man is in a race, you will rather vote for a Bassa person. Not everybody, but most people, politically speaking. If you are from Lofa County and Joseph Boakai is the elder statesman, he's the most senior government official in the country, and he's running, he's a former vice president. He is your kinsman. Will you now want the president to come from your county? What we're seeing is when a president is from a particular county, that county tends to benefit the most. We saw that when Doe was president. We saw that when Old Man Todman was president. We saw that when Talbot was president, Morovia for the most part, and also I don't know what is it Bento or Bensonville, whichever the capital city is. Sorry, I forgot that. For Monserrado County, that is what we saw. So most ordinary voters in Liberia would rather vote for their kinsman or somebody from their county, for they know that that person will do something in that county that will bring a little bit of light to them. So talking about Cummings, how is he connected to Maryland County? For Boakai, he speaks his local language. There's a story out there that he's from Wasanga. So the people of Lofa County, the ordinary people, can relate to him. He does not have that problem. Does he have an advantage there? Yes, I would say he has an advantage with that, more so in Lofa County. And that is a political plus. President we are told he's a crewman, and he carries himself so. Now, so there are many Crew people, and I'm Crew, so I know this to be a fact. There's many Crew people that say, well, we are sticking with our guy. That is a political plus. He comes from the Southeast. Though the Southeast is not entirely Crew, for some of you who don't know, the entire Southeast is not Crew. We have so many tribes. We have the Crown, we have the Global, we have the Crew in the Southeast. And even in the Crew, we have different segments. Even in the global, secting, we have different segments of the global people. But on the average, do we see a Southeastern solidarity that will play in President Weah's favor? Does he have an advantage? And if you look at all of the candidates, how do they treat the Southeast? How do they see the Southeast? Do they abandon the Southeast because they believe that the Southeast is all part like Crew, Kwa-speaking people, and they're all for Joshua? They're not going to waste their time, so they are just dashing all that huge sum of votes to President Weah. So does he have an advantage? Yeah, I would say, yeah, President Weah has an advantage, more so because Mr. Cummings, who is also from the Southeast, is not connected. He does not speak a local vernacular. For some voters, that is applause. Even if you cannot, you must be able to relate to them. Dr. Tipoted, after getting an education, could not speak the Crew well. He made some effort. He started speaking the local vernacular. So many people got to know Tipoted that he can speak Crew and he can speak Pele and speak other languages. He made a conscious effort to do so. So People now voting for Tipote was not on the basis that he could not connect to them, to use a better word, traditionally. No, that was not the reason. They have their other reasons. So you could not take that away from Tipote. But in Comey's case, I think he does not have the advantage when it comes to the narrative on that side. President Weah has the advantage there. Bwaka also has an advantage there. What's his name? Kasser has no advantage when it comes to that kind of connection. Mr. Tiawon Gonglo does have an advantage there when it comes to that. He's from Nimba County. Nimba, we are told, is a vote-rich county. His family, the Gonglo, is a well-known, I would say, politically popular family in Nimba County. So there are more people in Nimba that will vote for Tiawon because he is from there, and more so, he speaks the local vernacular, and he's in touch with his people. Nobody in Nimba County cannot make any other argument against Mr. Gonglo's connection to his county and to his people. No one cannot make that argument against him. So people who would rather vote on that basis will vote for Mr. Gonglo. That is a plus and that is an advantage. But whether or not that is enough to give him a competitive advantage in the entire overall election, I don't think so. And that's yet to be seen. So talking about narrative also, another thing we need to talk about is connection. We talk about the language. Is this person a grassrooter? Most Liberians are grassrooters, are ordinary people. Can they connect to Comey? Do they see him as a grassrooter? And, can they connect to Weah more? Do they still see Weah as a grassrooter, or do they see him as an elite now? Do they see all the CDC officials as grassroots, or do they see them as elite now who have abandoned them in the dome of grassroots or grassrooters? That's another thing that they have to deal with. But let's talk about something in politics that is also key, right? Which is the international community, the outside world. There are some Liberians who put premium on how a candidate or a possible president will be seen in the international community. Liberia is poor. Economically, we are poor. We have the resources, but economically, we are poor. And Liberia has been surviving on support from other countries. So we need them, and we need them still. Now, who of all the candidates has a better connection to the outside world, whose image, whose record, who's connected to the outside world, through whom businesses and world leaders who love to do business with Liberia, either because of the person's record? Who's that person? When it comes to that, Mr. Cummings has the advantage. He worked in corporate America. Corporation today rule the world. They control even politicians and governments. Investments from corporations is what make a government strong economically. If your economy is doing well, it's because there are more businesses in your country. There are more corporations that have come to invest in your country. And there's something they call investment climate. It is not good right now in Liberia. More investors have been on the wait and see. But they have reached a decision that that climate is not good. And sometimes more so is because of the leader. Do they trust the leader? Does the leader understand the business language? Does the leader understand the investment language? Does the leader understand what is investment? The international aspect, the international connection. When it comes to that, Comey has an advantage over Weah, over Bwaka, over Gonglo, over Cassell, and all of the candidates. He does have that. We can give that to him. But, will that be the predominant determining factor as to who becomes Liberia's president? Of course, no. The voters in Liberia will be voting based on their needs, based on their connection to a candidate, to a political party. Tribal affiliation, how they see this person, that is how they will be voting. They will not be voting on the basis of who spends the more money and who has more international contact. But their contacting, has become a narrative. In most elections, some people vote on that basis. George, we have a vote. Some people voted President. We are on that basis. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is one person who benefited immensely from that so-called international connection thing. She's from Harvard. She was with World Bank. She has the connection. America knows her, and blah, blah, blah. And so many Liberians, especially when it comes to the international connection thing, the educated class in the country are the one who put premium on this particular factor. And many of them will even go to encourage some locals to vote a particular candidate because of that connection. But there are people in Liberia who will say that connection we will eat. We were told Ellen had the connection. Ellen King, what happened? It was a disappointment. Ellen left. We don't have electricity. We don't have water. We are still suffering despite that international contact that she had. The broad United Nations and all that, all the NGOs were here. They left, and they left us poor. We were also told President Weah has international contact because he played football, the Drobas of the world, the Samuel Intoud of the world, the Thierry Henry of the world, and all these people were going to come to Liberia. Even President Weah at some point got in contact with some Hollywood actors, and that those people were going to come. All this kind of thing was thrown out there, right? And that President Weah was going to leverage that to bring investment that will improve the material condition of the Liberian people. Did that help? No, it has fallen flat. President Weah cannot even see any serious world leader as we speak, least to talk about having a serious investment conversation with them. So that in itself has not been able to help Liberia. So the voters will be wise enough this time and will not be making decisions on the basis of a so-called international contact. They will not be doing so. So to conclude, Cummings has the advantage, and it can only play to the educated class, and the educated class is a very small percentage of the voters, and so Cummings cannot count on that for victory. Doing so would be a political peril for him. So, folks, that will do it for the first segment. Let us now come to the second segment of this presentation. And that second segment is conflict in the CDC versus conflict in the opposition. To that, I'm asking these questions to do my analysis and bring you in. All right. So I want to know which political conflict, which political party, what political, did somebody change this thing? Sorry there, folks. So I want to say, when it comes to the conflict, which political party, the CDC conflict, the conflict in the CDC, and the conflict in the opposition, of these two sides, which side conflict has a propensity to derail that side's chances? We will talk about that. And which side's conflict is more reconcilable compared to the other? In other words, when you look at the conflict in the CDC, is it easier, or will it be easier for the CDC to reconcile compared to, say, the opposition to reconcile and unite and present a single ticket to go against the CDC? I will say to you without no hesitation, the CDC is most likely to reconcile its differences, to swallow the bitter pills and stick with President Weah and feed a single candidate, and that candidate will be President Weah, compared to the opposition. And yes, the reason. Yeah, are the reasons. There are more of them, so many of them. Number one, the CPP, first of all, destroyed the hope, the trust, and aspiration of the Liberian people. they have raised the hope of the voters that this president who has not been up to the task, they needed to make him a one-term president. Cummings said it, Waka said it, all of them said it. Mr. Waka said President Weah is a boy who is having a man's job. You can't give a man's job to a boy. They have talked about how corrupt the CDC is. They said the CDPP will hold, the CPP will hold, the CPP will hold. The CPP will hold was a slogan. And they have made some people to even believe that. People have started trusting them. And so people started voting the CPP. Fast forward, those political leaders started fighting among themselves because they could not agree on a ticket. They went into chaos. They destroyed what they built. And today they are in court. And some claim to have left the CPP. Whether it was done legally, I don't know. It's yet to be seen. Mr. Bwaka and the Unity Party left. Mr. Ure and the ALP left. We have Mr. Cummings and I will say the Liberty Party, or maybe one side of the Liberty Party that is still within that political arrangement. So I'm saying to say that conflict caused a serious bad blood. There were insults from one side to the other against their political leaders. It became vicious. It became bitter. The bad blood is so strong that the CPP will now hold and it will go into chaos and pieces as we speak. For these actors, for these political leaders who were in the CPP to come together would be so difficult. Will be so difficult. It would take men who care about the country and who are not overly ambitious and greedy for power, who are selfless, who want to put the nation's interest above their personal egos. It would take selfless political leaders to see that what we started was the right way to go, and will come together to mend fences and do so. But I can promise you, these men will not be able to do it because all of them are eyeballless. They don't have minds of their own. They are being pulled apart by their supporters. Up to now, we continue to hear that it will never happen. Oh my dear Bolay, all these kind of foolish languages coming from them, which is so sad. And so for the CPP to unite will be difficult, will be so difficult. They might go their separate ways as they are doing right now. They will build their own coalition as they are promising that they will do, but they will not unite. Now, chances are that they will go into the election individually with their own form coalitions that will be weak, because I tell you this much, any collaboration that will not have Unity Party and the ANC together will be weak. And also with the Liberty Party not in it will be weak. The biggest parties in Liberia, number one, the CDC, number two, the Unity Party, and number three, the ALP, and also followed by the ANC. These are the four political parties. And these four political parties, therefore, no, four political parties. Now, there's one on the other side, which is the CDC, that's on the opposite side. So the other three that are bigger, Unity Party, Liberty Party, and ANC, if they come together, their numbers combined will be more than what the CDC has. And if they were or are to stick together, that is the only collaboration that can beat the CDC. But the fact that they split it and they cost it so much bad blood, even if one of the other goes to the second round, the other will not be able to support the one who makes it to the second round. They will turn their back. They will let that other one just die a political death. We saw that in 2017 with Bwaka. The other political parties said, well, no, our supporters can do what they want to do. What happened? Mr. Bwaka went into the election against President Weah and won only a single county. This is how serious the conflict is in the entire opposition bloc. Now, is there conflict in the LPP when it comes to Mr. Gonglo? I don't know of any conflict, but I know there has been this foolishness in the progressive community where they will always argue, oh, Formula is the rare person, oh, Tipota is the rare person, oh, Dr. Dan is the rare person. They're always having the fight. They will waste time. They will waste time. They will waste time. Oh, it's Josh Click here. He's the most suited. He should be. He has the most credentials when it comes to progressivism and all that. They're wasting their time. I don't know whether they think majority of ordinary voters have time for their progressivism. The people don't have time. They need somebody who will come and articulate the issues that affect their daily life. And these people are wasting their own time on who is more credentials when it comes to progressivism. They are just wasting their time. As we speak, Taiwan Gonglo, he launched. I mean, why is this taking the mess? You are many miles behind the other people. Your political party has been in a coma. You should be up front right now and making the political noise that will bring people in your corner. They are wasting their time. Chances are that there are people within the progressive community that would not want to see Taiwan Gonglo. But I can tell you this much, Taiwan Gonglo is more connected to the ordinary people. He has a county connection. He has a tribal connection. And I don't spare me with your thing that I'm preaching tribal politics. I'm talking about reality here, folks. Taiwan Gonglo has that. So Taiwan Gonglo, I would say, should be the guy for the progressive community. You need to unite forces. Joshua has never been the best when it comes to political leadership in Liberia, but he had a new recognition. He had a connection to the ordinary people. So the CDC, to their credit, took him, they patched him, they justified for him, they made excuses for him. They hid him from the debate. They did everything. And the CDC won the election. Folks, when it comes to politics, it is the person whom most of the voters can connect to. It is not how educated you are. In the Democratic Party, Trump won. He was not the best. He would never, ever be the best. He was the worst. But he had a connection and a message to the ordinary of voters in the Republican Party. That guy won. Obama, he was not the more credential. He was not the more politically savvy and experienced in the Democratic Party. But then Kennedy Obama connected with the ordinary people, especially students and people who were at the bottom of the economic ladder, they would say in America. He made that connection. So Obama would go to snatch the nomination and would go into the national election and beat a veteran, John McCain, in that election in a landslide. So folks, the progressive community is wasting its time, and no Liberian I shouldn't say no Liberian. Most Liberians, I don't think, have time for, that thing they're doing. They are not ready for prime time. They are not ready for prime time. Let me emphasize that. So they have their own little wrangling here and there. I would not call it conflict, but I'll call it disagreement, and I'll call it useless, or disagreement in the first place. Let's come to the CDC. The CDC has some troubles. There are seditionists who are disappointed. There are seditionists who are disenchanted. They are disenchanted because they have been let down. Promises made to them have not been fulfilled. People have been brought into government who were not in the trenches with them. President Weah has made so much terrible decisions that annoy, the ordinary citizens. President Weah brought Charles Bride, someone from my understanding is on the list, the TRC list, all right? He brought in Emmanuel Shaw, from my understanding, who is also listed in the TRC report. These are questionable characters. President Weah made a decision and made these two persons advisors against the will of ordinary citizens. They are not happy with that. There are some people who are in government. Some people even bought their jobs. Qualified seditionists were not put into the government because maybe that person have at one time criticized President Weah. So they were not given jobs. Seditionists are not happy with that. Seditionists are registered their disenchantment, their dissatisfaction over and over again. The Mangays of the world, the Twers of the world, they're not speaking to people. We saw that with Christmas Sieh, and the CDC is being hypocritical now, parading with the young Ben Castle. We are told President we will not see him. Mangay will not see him until when Mangay came to the United States. Christmas Sieh have to sell his car to buy a plane ticket to come back to the United States. His friends will not help him. Seditionists are dissatisfied with their government, but they are sticking there because they have nowhere to go. So I'm saying to say in the CDC, there are disagreements, there are dissatisfaction, displeasure, anger, in the CDC. Frustration, all manner of things in the CDC. People are not happy. We saw, what's her name? Phil Tapper Dixon, one of the bright young men in the CDC. He wanted to contest the ostracizing. They brought Thomas' father because they felt he had name recognition and money. They will not promote, a young person who election or candidacy who have energized the CDC. They will not do it. The CDC at some point brought a political way because of what we are told of her connection to President Weah against potential qualified candidates in the CDC. The CDC will go and lose that election big time. These things are within the CDC and people are not certified. And of late, I read an article today from the Vanguard newspaper talking about the recent conversation President Weah had with Mr. Henry Pedro Costa. Seditionists have gone on a rampage again, registering their dissatisfaction and displeasure because they believe that Henry Costa is divisive, he's abusive, he's a demagogue, he's narcissistic, and he has demonized, insulted, belittled seditionists and even their leader, President Weah, and all other leaders. And President Weah is making a political calculation here to talk to this guy. They see him as a blackmailer, someone who is in politics for what he gets, that he cannot be trusted. They should not do business with him. Sedition's dissatisfaction is fundamental. It carries a weight. It can have political consequences. For example, in 2011, the CDC or President Weah made a decision to allow Winston Thomas to get on a ticket of the CDC. Seditionists were destroyed in their spirit. Many of them refused to vote. They never participated. That contributed to sedition even boycotting the 2011 election. The 2011 election was boycotted by the CDC. It was not only because of allegations of election fraud, it was also more so because of the main fact that you had a Winston Thomas, though a career diplomat, who had no connection with ordinary people. When the man chanting Munya, you would go, Munya, Munya, Munya. The seditionists saw that and said, what is this brother thinking? How can you bring this political outsider in our mix and crying him as the leader of the party? Sedition walked away. They boycotted the election. Some of them stayed home. CDC did not win that election. So the dissatisfaction of the CDC can have political consequences, and the CDC should not overlook it. That said, be that as it may, I can say with certainty that the CDC, when it comes to conflict in all these political, or in these two sides, the opposition bloc and the CDC, I can say to you with certainty, the CDC is able to unite. Will be easier to reconcile compared to the opposition. That I can tell you for free. Now, let me bring my final point here, which I already started. How CDC will unite beyond President we have versus how the opposition will unite behind its possible candidate or candidates. I put S to that because it's obvious that Cummings is going to run, most likely to run on his own. Bloc is most likely to run on his own. They said it. You know, when you are going on the farm and you see the river is stopping you, you turn back and use another route. It can't stop you from getting to your destination. What a statement. And some people are celebrating that without reading what it says there is that this is a man, this is a leader who cannot see a problem, confront the problem, devise a solution, and move on. So he's traveling. He sees a river that is overflowing. He cannot find a canoe. He cannot cut a monkey rope to throw across and cross. He cannot swim. He cannot do anything. He's not able to solve problems. So he walks back. I am a villager. I am a villager. In my village, during the rainy season when the rivers are overflowing, and you have to go on that farm to bring that cassava to town that the family is depending on to eat, you have to find a way. Sometimes the river is overflowing to the point that the little market bridge, I will call it, that has been built, the river, the water is all over it. But you stand on it, you hold the rope, and you walk. And you put the cassava on your head or the partner on your head. And you make all the necessary sacrifices to cross that bridge that has troubled water over it. Because you have a family that is depending on you. Family needs that cassava to cook and to eat. But we have a political leader who, once he sees his river, he turns back. But that is a topic for another day. And when that time comes, I will make it juicy, just as I am making this one juicier. So, folks, as I was saying, the CDC is able to unite behind a CDC presidential candidate. President Weah is an incumbent, and that is an advantage in itself already. He has something. The CDC is in power, it runs or controls the national coffers. So even CDCians who are dissatisfied, they are still hopeful. But can they hope in the opposition that is fighting, in court, tearing each other down, insulting each other? And when you see the chaos that has been ongoing in the CPP or in the opposition community, right? Do you think that if for any reason the CPP were to come together again, will we not see the same chaos in a possible CPP government or opposition government? That is why you're going to see. Because there's a saying that practice made perfect. What they have practiced here is disunity, insults, disagreement, disrespect for each other, fighting for jobs. Yes, they've been fighting for who's to be on the ticket of the CPP in this county and in that county. It is the same thing we are most likely to see if, and only if, somehow, they now dead CPP were to resurrect again and put a ticket together and will go to win, they will be fighting for job. It will be difficult for them to unite because the leaders, Bloc thinks he's more qualified than Cummings because of his time in government. Cummings thinks he's more qualified, he's best suited because he does not have political baggage against him. He's quote unquote clean. I don't know if they can still make the argument because they snatched them with alteration and all that. That is something they have to fight, politically speaking, right? So these are two sides. The Cummings people say, well, Bloc is not somebody to do business with. You can't trust him. They're calling him all manners of names. They hate each other. They despise each other. They can't work together. So if they were to come together and then win the election, that same thing will happen. They will be fighting who should be Minister X. These people have not been able to put a plan together that will work on. A plan, something that you should not argue about. Hey, this is how we attach the issue of the economy or the agricultural sector. This is how we approach water. This is how we approach education. These things are not things people disagree on. And I can tell you, when it comes to the major sectors like education, business, social services, all Liberian political institutions have basically the same plan. So there's no disagreement. The disagreement has been who should go to minister this, who should be minister this, and who should be minister that. That has been the fight in most instances. And the fact that these two people cannot see eye to eye, it would be a vicious and I can use the word devilish fight in Liberia. So the CPP is not able to unite behind a single candidate. The opposition as a whole, all the parties and candidates included, would not be able to unite behind a single candidate. Even in the second round, they will not be able to do so. But it will be very, very easy, like breeze, for the seditionists to unite behind President Weah. Because even though they have serious issues, but they think that the man already has the kid in his hand, and they might be lucky someday. And that maybe when he wins again, it might be their time now to come into the government to contribute, and so that for them to chop. Because most political actors in Liberia that they chopping thing they on. They want chop, they want chop, and chop they want all the time. Folks in cyberspace, my name is Ansony Sieh. This is Focus on Liberia. I brought you another exciting and analytical edition of the Hour of Politics on the topic, who has the advantage to 2023? When it comes to money, who has the advantage? Who has the advantage when it comes to connection, either to their county, either to the voters, to the grassroots? Who has the advantage to the voters as a whole? Who is doing something that the people can relate to more? Will it be President Weah, who now building markets? Some people celebrating that. That is something for some people. President Weah is also building housing units in most counties, or let me say some counties, as we see. President Weah have plenty of street lights. And to tell you the truth, folks, there are some people in these counties, for especially my county of Grand Crew, if you carry a solar panel light there, only if you will maintain it, that it will be on now up to election time, it is big. Because many people, most of the voters in most of these counties, these are people that are in their 30s and below, or 25 and below. Most of them have not seen this thing we call current before. So you might say, oh, that thing is nothing for them. It means something. It means a lot to them. For them seeing light. I remember studying with candlelight, with a Janko lantern, something that can affect your eyes. So if they see a solar panel light, let's say in the street, for example, in my hometown of Sastan, I heard there was solar panel light planted there, and people were in the street. Some students were studying under the light. They will not even go to bed because of the light. For them, that is their first time. You can't dismiss that. They don't know why you know and why you see. They have not seen it. It is their first time. It can be something for which they will vote. For some people, having a much better looking market, something they did not see early in time, they will vote. Even though most of the road projects that are going on, the funds were secured by the Unity Party, but they see some of these projects are being completed under President Weah. They don't have the sophistication like most people to know that, no, this is not President Weah. They see President Weah as the one who is building those roads. Those roads mean a lot to those people. Some of them have not seen paved roads in their county before. And they are seeing it for the first time. And you have an opposition that is not even reaching to them and doing anything for them other than the year that the opposition fighting. Why would you want to vote for a group that is fighting each other, tearing each other down, compared to somebody who is, say, hey, I build a road. Hey, here's a little market. Hey, here's a solar panel light. The ordinary person in that village, in that town, far away from Monrovia, you think when that person is making that decision in that booth on that day, who will they be voting for? The person they don't know, who they don't relate to, or the person they can relate to through that solar panel light, through that little housing unit that's been built. Some people call it names and all that, but for them, that's their first time. Many of them have lived in the mud houses that we built in our villages and in most of our counties. I live in one, very durable and long-lasting, by the way. But those people, they want better life. So if President we have, has built, or the government has built anything different other than what they've lived in over the years, and they see it as something modern, as an advancement for them, they will appreciate it and they can vote on that basis. And you should not count that. You are not in their shoe. They don't see why you see. They don't know why you know. They've known that Taj house for a very long time, and now they see a zinc house built with concrete. They will appreciate it, all that. So, to conclude, folks, I will tell you, President Weah, as we speak now, has the political advantage. And those of you who have watched me, you know how, my thoughts, my analysis have been. I will say to you, our current government is not one that I am proud of. It is not doing better. But yet, I tell you today, looking at all these factors, the money factor, the conflict factor, all right, the connection factor, connection in terms of tribe, in connection to the grassroots, connection to the voters, and all that, the CDC right now has the advantage. Even though the people are hungry, even though price is killing them, they do not see a much better person right now. Majority of them do not see a much better person, because for the opposition, they see them as one group. Don't get me wrong. There are many people that want Mr. Bloc to be president. They see him as a cool, calm, and collected guy. But the fact that he has not been able to grow his number, the fact that he has serious deficiency when it comes to cash, that might harm him in the elections. The fact that he is not having a unified opposition behind him. If the CPP, for example, were to go behind Mr. Bloc will have a much better chance compared to President Weah in the elections. Because the narrative of corruption, the narrative of the economy and the hardship in the country will be in Mr. Bloc's favor. Even though the CDC will want to say corrupt Unity Party wants to come back, but the people will compare the Unity Party administration, the suffering, the process, and how things were, and compare it with the CDC, and they will make a conscious decision that I think we'll go with the Unity Party because things were better under the Unity Party. And most besides, we have a united opposition that wants to see our President Weah calm down because he's not doing well. That, if that were to happen, Bloc, I can say to you with certainty, will beat President Weah. Also, if say the opposition were to unite behind Tiawon Gonglo, oh yes, Tiawon Gonglo would not have money problem because all the opposition will put their resources together. Because at the end of the day, it's not money that wins the election. It's the narrative. It's a much better candidate. It's the message of change that wins the election. Is President Weah delivering change? No. Do the people want their situation to change? Yes, they want their economic situation to change, and they want it right now. But who will bring that change they have not been able to see? Who will preach that change message they have not been able to see? They have not been able to see that person. And so, whether I was Tiawon Gonglo, oh yes, I can tell you, if the opposition community were to unite behind Tiawon, they would beat Weah flat. I can say that. And also, if the opposition were to unite beyond Cummings, where the Unity Party, the ALP, the LP, and all other political parties, or even if we just the parties that were within the CPP, were to support Mr. Cummings as the presidential candidate, whether or not Mr. Bloc was on the ticket or not, and maybe they would have brought somebody from either the Liberty Party or the Unity Party, they could go and beat Mr. Weah because the narrative will be against President Weah. The narrative again of corruption, the narrative of suffering and hardship in the country, and the message of change will have been in the corner or the CPP, not CPP, but the opposition community with a communist ticket who have been at the advantageous position. They will have gone to defeat and humiliate the CPP in a political tsunami victory. Oh, yes, that will have happened. But hey, this is what the CPP and these political leaders have destroyed. And that's what puts President Weah in an advantageous position. He is smiling. And now he's even calling Costa because he knows that Unity Party has nothing right now as we speak. And Costa is money tested. And President Weah has the money. So he's blushing, excited about his call after he humiliated, insulted President Weah every opportunity he gets. And all the leaders, he will take his call and he will come to explain and come to think about his supporters to Jesus Christ of Nazareth. May the ancestor help us. They will follow him. They will not question him. They will not hold him accountable. They will be mute. This is the man you follow, you watch, who has insulted all seditions, called them all manner of names, humiliated their leaders, and will take a call and come to you and hide in the name of transparency, that he wants to be transparent. When was the last time he was ever transparent about meetings that he held in back corners? Coming after you. This is why this country will continue to struggle when it comes to this issue of change. Because people support their own devil. They cannot man up or stand up enough to say to their leaders, what you are doing is wrong. We will not support you. And withdraw their support from the individual when they misbehave, when they conduct themselves in ways that are unacceptable and not becoming politically. They will not do so. They will either be quiet or justify for them, and that is shameful. And this country is not going anywhere with this kind of awkward behavior, and it must stop. We are where we are because as a people, we don't hold leaders accountable. Whatever a leader does is okay with the followers. Even if it is not okay, they will not speak. They will be quiet and they will justify, and that is repugnant. So as I was saying, the deficiency of cash on the Bloc side is a huge problem. The conflict is a huge problem. The Unity Party, when it comes to conflict, has its own conflict. It's big. It will explode. Watch my word. It will explode. It will explode, and it will explode big time. Because the Unity Party folks will push Costa, who has become the face of the Bloc train. They were pushing aside. And I think he's already sensed that, so he pulled back. And that is why he's talking to the ruling government right now as we speak. Costa has pulled back. And I can tell you, don't believe whatever he says. And that conversation that he had with President Weah, the follow-up will be about money. Costa is the guy who talks about deals. He's a deal maker. This is how he survives politically and financially and economically. This is the business that he's in. He would tell us, are you paying my bills? Oh, some time ago, he was in some kind of deal with Cassell, right? Have you forgotten? So look, Bloc and Unity Party have issues. The early win will assert itself very soon. They are only waiting what Bloc is going to finalize. If he finalizes this so-called coalition of Unity Party, boom, there will be a division. There is already. He does not have Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and that is a fundamental problem for him. He does not have the wherewithal to reconcile with the madame. The excuses have been, oh, I can't force her. She has to decide what she wants, and so on and so forth. Seriously? So, folks, President Weah has the advantage when it comes to political conflict that have the propensity to undermine the victory of any political candidate. Cummings too has some conflict. He's in business with the Liberty Party. The Liberty Party wing that has been headed by Musa Bility. That wing now is having some, pullback, some reservation, because there was conversation about a deal. If Musa Bility pulls away, ANC politically will be barefooters in the CPP. Where will they look for the numbers? Where? Will they go after Prince Johnson? Joshua got Prince Johnson in your corner. Where will the numbers come from, fellow Liberians? Oh, of course, it will not come from the Liberty Party. Then, if Musa Bility pulls away, of course, it will not come from what? ALP. Where? The progressive community, the LPP, with Gonglo, I'm not sure what's going to happen there. It's not impossible. I'm just not sure. Where will the numbers come from? The Rainbow Coalition is dead. It does not exist. It's only written on paper. Have you seen their leaders? Mr. Freeman, a good friend. Can I say that? No, he's not a good friend. He's a good man, by the way. I having to interview him 2 times. He's in that party. Vote. Dr. Jeremiah Wapo. These are some leaders that I know in the so-called Rainbow Coalition that we don't hear about. Who's stopping them from engaging the media to make the case? Tier 1 is not capitalizing on the breakdown of the CPP. He's not capitalizing on where blunders, the CDC mess that they've created that they have not been able to clean, even though Akaras will continue to lie to himself, pretending that he's lying to us, that they are cleaning any mess here. Folks, am I making this thing juicy for you politically? So, brothers and sisters, my fellow compatriots and citizens, President Weah, I am now pleased, but I want to announce to you has the advantage right now going into 2023. And so should President Weah, if and when President Weah wins the upcoming election, do not and you should not be surprised. For the other sides have hurt themselves more. And they are also have President Weah more. He's looking good. The boy was even brave to say, I will beat them again. These are the reasons he mustered the courage to say that. They are playing the smart. They got Cummings in court. This very CPP talking to court. So President Weah grabbing, he took his knee and placed it on Cummings' neck. He will continue to press it. He will continue to press it. When will that case come out of court? We don't know. The CDC played the game with my friend Cabinet Janet. They kick him out. He's not there. He went to ECOWAS. He won the court and said, we're not paying you kappa. They don't care about the rule of law. They care about their political victories and what they get. The CDC has no planned strategy, but the opposition has been giving them gift. And what the CDC has been doing to their credit is taking these political gifts, putting it in their pocket, with their hands in their pocket, and they are dancing political kumbaya. Oh, dance the dance, and so they will continue to the date of elections. And so, folks, may I report to you, as I close my presentation and analysis, that on the question who has the advantage going into 2023, I can say to you without hesitation, after analyzing the variables and verifying the dynamics and the elements, and looking at the players, looking at the conflict factor, looking at the connection factor, looking at the money factor, looking at the narrative factor, the CDC does have the advantage. Unfortunately, the CDC does, and that is news for you. It is left now with the opposition community to take this message, strategize, and do the right thing. Whether or not they will do the right thing, I don't know. What I know is they may not. They may not, and they may not. And their failure to unite gives President Weah a bigger window for a second term. And I am sorry to report this to you, and that is the inconvenient truth. And you need to see it for what it is, because the numbers, the conflict, the money, the connection, everything, if you look at it, the CDC must be smiling, even though they have issues that I have expressed so eloquently. Can I say that I'm not eloquent? No, I'm not. That I have expressed so succinctly, so analytically, that one I can say, right? Ansony Sieh, focus on Liberia, the hour of politics, where you get the political analysis, something that you will not get from any Liberian platform. They will make all the noise and be yelling, and they will not break it down to you. We do it here at the hour of politics. We inform you. We gave you the variables, so that when you go home and say in your corner, even if it will mean you will cry for your Liberia, also cry, because tears can become a therapy. When you cry about your situation and you cry so loud, your stress goes away. And sometimes that's the right thing to do, instead of pretending that you will not cry. Folks, that is how I will do it here. And that is how I will bring my broadcast to an end. I will say to you, I love you. I believe I told you the truth. I believe the truth heals. I believe the truth will set you free. The truth will put you in a position to accept what might be coming your way and is to come to your way possibly. And now that you know the truth, you adjust yourself, lower your expectation, and accept reality and live with reality, and not be stressed and disappointed, but that you will focus on your life and make adjustments and live with what is possibly coming your way. And when you do that, despite all the odds, you will live your life and you will have a smile on your face. This too will not be the end of our Liberia. Liberia has gone through many trials and tribulations. This political tribulation is nothing compared to what we've seen. For example, the war. We see the all. We see corruption. We live corruption. Oh, why I agree with you. It must change. And so should it change now. And that is what I am here. I want these things to change. I want this thing to change now. But we don't have the men and women. We don't have the leaders who will bring that change, fellow Liberians. Oh, yes, we don't. Oh, that is sad. So sad and so sad. Others are in tears. Others are suffering. People are dying. And yet the help is not coming. And it's not coming from our leaders. That help will not come from Almighty America. It will not come from Almighty international community, or it will not come from the Almighty God. Neither will it come from the Almighty ancestors. It will not come from your father. It will come from you. You, the leaders. You, the people. It will come from you, the teachers, who teaches so well and not sell grades. It will come from you, the political leader, that senator who represents his people so well without taking brown envelope. It will come from the ministers who administers the affairs of his ministry without betraying the trust of the people, who execute the budget so judiciously and return the money to the people. It will come from that government that implements the projects so judiciously and will not eat that money, but will return the money to the people to improve their material condition. It will come from you, Mr. Minister. You, Mr. President, you, Mr. Lawmaker, you, Mr. Voter, you, teacher, you, doctor, you, the Liberian people. It will come from you, media people, who tell the truth, who do the analysis, who inform our people and educate them and elevate the discourse and don't trust on trivialities. It will come from you. It will come from you, the Father, who nurtures the Son to be a man and to be a good Liberian. It will come from you, the mother, who nurtures your daughter and prepare her for the future, to be a woman, to be a better representative and a good citizen. Or it will come from you, that mother. It came from my mother, that is what I'm here. It came from my father, that is what I'm here, and I'm playing my part, even though it's insignificant to most people. And they will not come to listen to balanced, thorough, and educated discussion because I'm not insulting somebody. Or maybe what I'm saying is so complicated for them. They are looking for G's and fries. I don't give G's and fries. I represent myself. I represent Liberia. I represent my friends. I represent my family. I am a proud Liberian on a mission to save this nation that is dying politically and economically. So may I end to say to you, the road to 2023, the CDC has the advantage. The song says, we are all Liberians, and that song is taking us home. My name is Ansony. Sieh. Until I catch you, when I catch you again on another edition of the Hour of Politics, may you criticize me to get better, for that's the way to go. Enjoy the song for just 1 minute. It will inspire consciousness and patriotism in you. And maybe you will pick up your voice and start speaking instead of sitting on the fence. We have a nation that is dying. We must save it. Okay? Save the state, somebody said. Bye-bye, fellow Liberians.
We are Liberians.